And hello again, boys and girls. Welcome back to the channel. It's of course your host, Mildly Startled. And today is just a meme day before I move on to, I think, Total War Shogun 2, Fall of the Samurai. So, this was effectively a meme to see what damage I could do as Russia if the only two things I produced were grain and meat and fertilizer. So the only things I produced were wheat, or farms that produced wheat, and livestock ranches for the meat and the fertilizer, and I built some construction yards, and that's the only thing I did for the past, 50 or 70 years. This was for two reasons. A, to see whether or not it would crash my economy, and two, to see if I could abuse the AI and make them dependent on my grain. In both cases, it sort of did a bit of both. But we're going to see in a minute to see what happens if I decide to start embargoing people, whether or not my grain is going to cause enough damage. So what I found with grain was that it was actually very profitable. The only reason I'm making a loss right now is because I've decided to subsidize my grain economy, which effectively is most of my economy. So of course I'm subsidizing my grain, or my wheat, and that's meaning that of course I'm going slowly bankrupt, but I don't really care. And that's also why you saw that rise in sort of radicals, because I've sort of effectively did that a while ago, went into too much debt, took off the subsidies, and everyone became poor. It's quite a unique concept, because the good thing about the grain is that it's constantly rising in demand naturally as the population of the world grows, which means that as long as you keep on producing, effectively means that there'll always be someone who wants it. It's not like coal where you only need it for certain types of industry, or it's not like electricity, which will be quite niche. For this bad boy, it really is. Every country wants it, every country needs it, every country is quite happy to have it. At the same time, because you increase the grain, if we take a look at the actual damage of 175k produced, because you increase so much grain, what happens is the cost of grain either goes down, or other nations buy your grain and you make a profit off of it. And in the case of myself, you can see my population is rapidly going up by 0.98. It was going up by 1.5 a while back, and I was making millions in terms of pop, because of course if you look at your pops over in the bottom left, you can see that they're no longer spending any money on grain. It's like 38% of the base price. The caveat is, of course, now they're spending loads of money on clothes, because I wasn't producing or making any clothing factories. And that's the one big issue I found with just the grain only, or grain and fertilizer meat only run, was the fact that although you could keep the population going up, and you were dependent on of foreign nations to supply you with your basic working tools, basic clothes, and other basic amenities, thus leading to this. But I also found the AI really liked joining your customs union, because of course the base price for grain was so ridiculously cheap, they just would love to get in bed with you. Same with Austria and Prussia and France and Great Britain. They always want to get in bed with you because of that lovely grain, and they'll even take off the tariffs with trade agreements. So you make a ton of money, your population makes a ton of money, and you can't really go far wrong. At the same time, you can get to the stage where you effectively subsidise your grain industry for a while, but that's sort of, the halcyon days are over, because I'm slowly outstripping demand. But it does mean your economy is subject to recessions, because you are dependent on foreign nations. So when Austria had a civil war, they were no longer buying my grain, and so I had a bit of a problem with my economy. It's a fun build because it's just absurd, just the amount and the level of grain you can make for the population. And if you take a look at how dependent other nations are, you take a look, they have a buy order of 22k, and they have a sell order of 32, because someone is buying 18,000. So what we're going to be doing next is I'm going to now crash my own economy and crash the world's grain supply. If we take a look at our next biggest provider of grain, it will be Greater Qing, and then the British Raj. Now I'm going to crash the world's grain supply and see what happens. This means a little bit of insanity. I want to see if it causes unrest. Oh, before we do that, Let's first take a look at the GDPs, so we can take a look at later. So their GDP's gone up quite considerably. Russia's at 161 million, population 18 million, population 53 million, population 41 million, GDP on 49 million. Of course, this is not the most optimum build, and you won't be able to do this for multiplayer because people will just like cap you, and everything else is backwards. I mean, the great thing about this build was the fact that I was very stable because everyone was a farmer, so all you had to do was keep the farmers happy, and you weren't going to have any sort of unrest. Whereas for everyone else, you don't have that sort of change in demographic and that unrest that way. Now, if we take a look at my actual farms, making £18 a day, making £10 a day, making £6 a day. Take a look at our quality of life is at 16%, population is at 79%, and this is all going to go horribly wrong, and GDP is at 339%. So let's see if this nuclear option actually works for us. So immediately go like this, and cancel all trade agreements of grain. Okay, Britain, can we embargo you? No, but we're going to expel diplomats. USA, I'm going to embargo. And then we're going to see if we can change our policies. To isolationism. And see how well this works. And we see our economy implode. Oh yeah, we no longer want to subsidise either. You can see the money wasn't an issue. GDP was a problem, but money was not an issue. Embargo. Let's get rid of these guys. Stop improving relations. Let's see what happens next. Let's go down to one speed wide check. Okay, we can continue to expel diplomats in. So now if we take a look at these nations, we go back to 3 speed, see how well that works out for us. They shouldn't be getting grain from us anymore. Alright, the price of grain has gone up, but not enough to... Well, it's gone up to 25, that's pretty bad. Take a look at the cost of grain here. 1.3k, not that bad. We're going to have to increase our taxation. Right, the GDP has not been affected yet. Where are they getting their grain from? China. Okay, we've gone isolationist. I honestly think this was not a good idea. I don't think the grain only run is going to work. Unless we can add some sweet consumption taxes. That will save us. Oh god. Oh god. Going isolationism was probably not the best idea. Our GDP has plummeted to nothing. I was hoping that the opposite would happen for other people's GDP. But actually no, it's our GDP which is dying. It did nothing. It did nothing. Being the base supply of grain did nothing. It achieved nothing. Maybe it slightly raised the price of grain. And it's bankrupted me. This failed dismally. Absolute failure. 55 million in default. Can I just go to my assets and just declare bankruptcy? I don't understand where these guys would get their grain supplies from. their population is only consuming so much grain. Oh, that's not. That's because it's the wrong fucking. There we are. Where are they making this? Trade routes. I did nothing. It achieved nothing. This is pointless. 5 years of my life just wasted. Yeah, don't worry about it. We've got bigger problems right now. Trying to see everyone else's economy collapse, but... Where are they getting their food from? How big is their population? You could probably have 18 million. 52 million, and apparently their population just doesn't need grain. Alright, you know what time it is? Tagging time. If I remember what the tag key is. Did this affect these guys whatsoever? I mean, they had a little bit of increase for this, but that was that. Alright, they're paying 29% more than they used to. But grain, like, where are they getting their food from? Buying it from China. It didn't affect their GDP in the slightest. Again, this did not affect them in the slightest. Not even a marked raise in the cost of grain. Not even a marked switch. Useless. Absolutely useless. So the answer to that, gentlemen, is no, you cannot manipulate the grain markets to starve the entire world. I think the only way you could have done that is if we'd actually invaded China and the British Raj, because they're the two main producers of wheat. So in short, gentlemen, after 5 hours of gameplay, being the sole grain producer or main grain producer of the world has absolutely no impact on your ability to crush other nations, because they build their own grain and they don't need a lot of it to be independent. So it's all a bit bleh. So no, I mean, grain is quite a meme, because everyone will always buy grain off you, but it looks like you cannot crush the world market by depriving the rest of the world of grain. And in fact, all you're going to do is bankrupt your country and financially ruin yourself. But we tried it, gave it a go. I had hoped that we could abuse it a bit more. I had hoped it would have been a bit better, but sadly not. But there you go. Just a, what do you call it? A meme video, a short one to say, this is what I tried to do. It didn't work. Here's why it didn't work. Here's the benefits of it. The benefits, of course, were massive increases to GDP, massive growth in population, and all that wonderful stuff. Cons were completely dependent on other nations for supply, for actual clothing, consumable goods, and so on. Cons in the fact that it has no impact. You can't blackmail other nations by withholding the grain supply because they'll just get it somewhere else, and they don't need a lot of grain. But that was that, gentlemen. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all later. Adieu.